we're very early into this process, and I've never second-guessed decisions that we've made, and I'm certainly not going to second-guess this one, not at this point anyway. So I'm confident. Sitting in the audience today and watching what we were presenting and seeing National Geographic be part of it and The Simpsons be part of it and some of the films from the Fox library, and knowing there was a team in place in that room that has done a phenomenal job at creating scripted television over the years, made me feel great about that acquisition.
Yeah, now there's $2 billion or so in synergies that a lot of analysts have certainly pointed at. I think there was already been some...
Well, we talked about that number, yes.
Are there more to come? I mean, I know there's been job losses associated with, as there would be when you're putting these two together. Is there more to come there, or are you largely through the job cuts?
No. We're just beginning a consolidation process across the world, and we've been candid about that with people in the organization. There's work to do to get to the synergies that we talked about, which were cost synergies. We have consolidation ahead of us.
So there's more to come there.
Yes.
And do you think the $2 billion number is?
We're not updating the number.
Specific to the process itself, a couple of things as well to get to. I mean, the sale of the RSNs, these regional sports networks, continues. I've been following that somewhat closely as well. It doesn't seem as though it's been going particularly well. Am I going to be surprised?
In what direction?
In the upside, because I mean, Major League Baseball may be there.
We're not.
I mean, we're kind of getting fairly close to when you would want to have that deal kind of near or done or completed.
Our commitment to the Justice Department of the U.S. government was 90 days after closing.
The Apple board. It's another thing I just was curious about. Can you stay on that board?
Well, obviously, when you sit on the board of a publicly traded company, you have to be very mindful of your responsibilities, fiscal responsibilities to the shareholders of that company. And I have been. When the business of direct-to-consumer television or movies is discussed on the Apple board, I recuse myself from those discussions. There aren't many of them. It's still very small business to Apple. And I'm not at the point where I believe it's problematic, but it's something that I have to continue to monitor.
And finally, ESPN. We haven't talked as much about ESPN Plus, which has been in the marketplace, 2 million subs you talked about today in roughly 10 months. But how should we view ESPN, the network itself that is still carried on, 80-something million subs or something along those lines, and ESPN Plus? I know the programming is different to a certain extent. Are you expecting ESPN subs to continue to decline in the traditional model in the bundle? And does ESPN Plus pick that up along the way, or are they two different sort of models?
Well, I think right now ESPN Plus, and probably for the foreseeable future, meaning near term, is an extra service, meaning it's not designed to replace the traditional business model. So if it's an add-on, it's a place you can go to get more and engage more, or to get different. If you want to watch an Ivy League football game, it's going to be difficult to find that on ESPN, but they have the rights on ESPN Plus and so on. And in fact, a lot of what we've licensed for ESPN we can't put on because there are just so many hours in the day. And so this is great in that regard. And I think that will continue for a while. We believe that there are sports fans out there that do want more ESPN and want it in this fashion, which basically means easily watched across devices, over the top, not connected, not have to have a cable subscription service if they want to watch some sports or gain access to some. So we're not making any predictions about the health of the bundle or how many subscribers. But as you know, the business has seen some...
It's going to. I mean, my God, we started this conversation in 2011. One of our few interviews back in August of that year is when it sort of started to at least reverberate in the marketplace. I mean, the sub numbers are going to continue to decline at ESPN.
Well, I think the sub numbers for the expanded basic model will continue to decline. We'll see what happens with ESPN. We don't have anything to say about it in between earnings calls. We typically comment about sub figures during earnings calls. Nothing more to say.
The growth of virtual MVPDs has been beneficial to a certain extent, but that seems to be slowing as well.
Well, again, I'm not going to update numbers on that, but I think what this does, frankly, is it gives us the ability to have a platform and a relationship with the consumer that should the traditional model start failing us, which it's not yet. There's been
Will you know when it is?
I'm sure. Yes, I'm sure we will. But I don't see that. I don't see it happening during my tenure here. Not that, by the way, I'm pushing off the problem to somebody else. I just don't think it's a problem we're going to have. But if there's a time when the the channel, the linear channel, is no longer viable, then we've got the ability to flip a switch and go in this direction.
When you talk about your tenure, of course, and I hope we do interviews for many years to come, but 2021 is it? It's, well, 2.5 years away or so, right?
Yeah.
You seem to indicate in the meeting you're going to stick to it this time.
Yes,
that your time is. But you're going to be right in the middle of this enormous transformation of the company, of this transition that we've talked about. Is that going to be frustrating to you?
No, it won't be frustrating to me at all. The most important thing is that the company get through the transition seamlessly. I believe that 2.5 years from now, or roughly 2 years after we've launched this massive initiative, the company will be well on its way, and the company will be well on its way in terms of success here, and that will be the right time for a transition at the CEO level. The Fox acquisition will have been assimilated. We'll be off and running on the direct-to-consumer space. Now would have been, and the reason that I stayed, now would have been tough, primarily because of the Fox acquisition. But as I said earlier, that was somewhat tied to what we were planning to do direct-to-consumer. So the timing was not right for the shareholders of the company. I actually would have been fine, setting all this aside and going off and who knows?
Potentially running for office. At least you were thinking about it.
That's old news, but not current news.